Welcome back to part 2 of our book tracker series. We're going through Alex Agoric's book reading website, and we're copying the similar format so that I can track my reading over the years, sorted by year, and hopefully listing each day. If you missed part 1, go ahead and see how we actually add books to our backend database. Here is our backend Firebase database. Right now, all that it's holding are a few books, as well as the rating that I give it. What we're going to do right now is modify this endpoint, patricksweetman.com/books, and instead of modifying the ad screen, this time we're just going to modify that index.html. Right now it's blank, as you can see, and what we want this screen to display are all of the books that are in this list sorted by year. So I want it to first display the year, and then once it prints the year, I want it to print each individual book followed by its rating. So to get started, let's go ahead and do it. Let's bring out our code editor. I like using Atom personally, but you're more than welcome to use any code editor. Alright, looks like over here we need to go inside of books, and then once we open up books, we don't want to go into add, we just want to go into this index file. To save a little bit of time, I'm going to take the shelf from this file. Control A, Control C, Control A, Control V. Now we have everything. I'm going to go ahead and delete all of our scripts. I'm going to delete... Okay, so what we've got now is we have our book tracker title in it. This link is for our Bootstrap content delivery, our Bootstrap CDN. And then down here we have jQuery import, followed by what we need for Bootstrap jQuery. Last thing we have is a Firebase import. So to actually import Firebase onto this page, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the home of this and click Add Firebase to Web App. Copy the script tag. The one above it, this one right here, this is the Firebase CDN, the Firebase Content Delivery Network. And as you can see, that is already imported right here from the last video. Now let's just make sure this works, and we'll add this, instead of saying hello, we'll leave it as hello world. That's pretty coder-centric, coder-holistic. So we want to go to home, projects, patricksweetman.com, and then just drag the whole books folder over. Now let's go to patricksweetman.com, and we should see a hello world now, which we do. Awesome. So we're already getting started. The next thing we want to do is we just want to print all of the years. So let's make sure that we're connected to the database, and let's do that in a new let's do it in a new script tag just to kind of separate the config from all of the work we're going to be doing. And now, in order to deal with Firebase, what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to say read Firebase RTD, which stands for real-time database. Read and write on the web. The second link is what I'm going to want, and then I want to read data once. Yeah, I could do this as a listener function, but I don't think I'm going to be updating this data often. Probably once every week or once every couple weeks. So I just need to really read the data once when the user lands on there. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to just kind of copy this line. This is doing a little bit more using user ID, but I really don't care who the user is. I want it to perform the same action, agnostic of user. So inside of this function, what I want it to do, return firebase.database.ref. So this is getting a reference to my database. And at this reference, the actual spot I want is the current year, which may just be the top. Let me check the database to make sure. Inside of our database, we can see that the top level entity is actually a year. So I do just want to take, I don't need to actually get anything beyond the reference of the regular database. I don't need to go any deeper. And once it has a value, then we run this function of a snapshot of the database. So this is the database snapshot containing the active state, the current state of the database. So when a user lands, they're going to be given a snapshot of this entire database, an unchanging instance of it. And when that happens, what I want to do is I just want to alert, and let's alert snapshot dot number of children. I believe that is what I want. What I want is I want to see more about this data object, so I'm trying to find a link. Oh well. Firebase Snapshot. Always look through the documentation. One thing I've learned, always look through documentation. So a data snapshot, what we have in here, we have number of children, which is kind of what I want. So I'm just going to do num children. And that's all I want to alert. Once we get a value, alert how many children we have. Let's save this and see how it looks. Alright, we didn't get any alerts. Okay, we have an illegal return statement at line 31, which makes sense because I don't have any functions in here, so we shouldn't be returning anything. Instead, what I want is I just want to have that reference. I don't actually need to return the reference, I just need to use it. Alright, so we do have one child, which is all we should have, because the only child we have is the 2018. So what we want to do instead, in my mind, I'm assuming that we don't not only have a 2018, but we also have a 2019, a 2020, a 2021, continuing on. So, snapshot.for each. I believe I'm using this right. Let's check. Where's the for each? For each. So we can use the for each and then function of child snapshot again. So for each, I'm going to use an arrow function to say, so for each year, I want to alert the year.key, because up top here we can see that there is a key property that we can actually access about each year. So now what should happen? We're checking for the reference to the database. Once it gets a value, then we're going to go each child of that reference, and we're going to alert the key, which is a year. And that key is 2018 because the only child we have is 2018, just as it should be. And then for each year, what I want to do is I actually want to let's say $, maybe body. I think I want to append rather than actually erase the HTML, because what I want this to do is to continue to append onto it. And appending is as simple as going .append, and what I want to append in here is an H2, a header, and I want this to be year.key so that it actually outputs the year that we're currently going through. Okay, so now we have our 2018 on here, and once we print 2018, what I want it to print next is I want to go year.for each. So now we're getting a little bit complex with our function. We're going 2 nested loops deep, which is going to actually create a lot of work if we have a ton of books. Not incredibly significant until I get up into the mass numbers of books, like millions, hundreds of millions, way up there, maybe even tens or hundreds of thousands. Right now I'm not going to be dealing with any more than 50 to 100 books a year, so for the foreseeable future we should be good. So for each book, I want to do another function. Now this is just a variable, so I can make this whatever I want, but to make it more helpful for me, I'm using useful variable names that help to inform and make my code read like a book. So you can already see that we have a reference to the database. Once it has a value, then we want to execute this function of a snapshot. For each of the children of that snapshot, for each year of that snapshot, we want to append the year to it. And then for each book inside of that year, what we want to do is we want to again append to the body. We want to append into there. Let's make it, I guess, So I guess what I'll do is I'll make a list in here, which would make more sense. So I'll have this, I'll copy this line. And in this, what I want is an ordered list. So the ordered list is going to give us our numbering 1 through whatever. And I just want the opening of that ordered list. Because then after we print all the books, then I want to append the end of that ordered list. But inside of here, what I want to append is a list item. And that list item, all that it's going to contain at first is the book.key. It's the title of the book. All right, let's see how that looks. So now we've got 2018 followed by all of my books in an unordered list. Maybe this is an ordered list, but it does not have my numbers like I wanted it to have. I'm not sure why I didn't output numbers there, because the default for ordered lists should be numbers. But what I'll do is I'll include a more explicit definition of what it is I want to see if it will give me what I want. Alright, it's still giving me these dots like an unordered list, which it shouldn't be. Because we're appending an ordered list and then getting rid of that ordered list. Next, let's try to append a container for this entire thing. Div, yeah, we'll just make this a div to hold everything, because maybe the body needs a div. Not sure why it would need a div. But sometimes throwing a div in will solve problems, so I'm going to give it a shot. No, creating a list didn't even, or creating a div didn't even help it. Instead of doing it this way, what I think I'm going to do is append things a little bit differently. Rather than appending everything to the body like I am, I'm going to change it so that I'm appending to slightly different things. So in here, what I want to do is I want to append, instead of an H2, I want to append a div first. So let's append a div. ID equals... let's just have ID equal year.key. So now we got the ID of being the year, the key of the year. And then let's close off that div. And nothing goes inside of this div. All we want is this empty div. That way we can, in here, go hashtag plus year.key. And what that's going to do is it should select this year.key and append into it that year. And then we want the same thing for all of our other appends. So for this ordered list, I want to append the entire ordered list. And then I'm also going to give this ordered list an ID. And the ID is going to be equal to the same thing, year.key. And then on top of that, we're going to add to it list. Books. Okay, so then what we want is for each book, instead of appending it to the body, we want to append it to hashtag year.key plus books. And now we'll append all those to that. Let's see if that solves our problem. Okay, so now we got 2018 followed by our counting of all those, which is exactly what we want. It did take a couple seconds for it to load, but no errors. So I'm gonna call that a win for us on here. And just to check, let's go ahead and open up our original one. So let's go to let's try to add a book and see if it still works. Books, add index. Now it's gonna make me sign in. This is what we worked on in the last video. Once we sign in, it presents me with the ability to add my book. Let me think of another book I've read recently. Let's go with Urban China. This was a school-required book. I did not have as much fun reading it. So once we add this, it should have added it over here. Now we've got Urban China added, and once we refresh this, we have Urban China listed in here. So now we're getting an accurate list of all of my books, along with the title. What I want to append to it now is my rating for each. So on top of the year, plus... Okay, so we're printing the book key down here, and then after we print the book key, I want it to print a hyphen, followed by the book dot child rating dot value. So I want it to give me the value of the rating child and print that after the name of each book. And now we have Ready Player One, followed by the rating, The Inevitable, followed by its rating, Urban China, Weapons of Mass Destruction, and What's the Future and Why It's Up to Us. We have all of that. So now every single time I add a book over here, I can then just refresh this side and I get an entirely new one. I get an entirely new list of books because it's added on the other books in there. So I'm going to be posting this to my GitHub along with the video on YouTube, and if you've got any comments or questions, just let me know in the comments because I'm always here, still an undergrad, and over this summer I'm going to be out in Seattle working for Amazon. So my experience should do nothing but go up, and my ability to answer your questions should do nothing but improve. I hope you've had a great time learning more about Firebase, HTML, and JavaScript, and have a good one. Enjoy life, live it to your fullest, and always ask questions. Always be curious.